This is the bass video for the first movement of the Haydn Nelson Mass, the Kyrie Bass. So if you're a soprano, you're in the wrong place. This is for the bass line. I'm going to play your line for the whole movement, but I'm not playing the introduction, and I'm going to break it up with one or two little reminders as we go along. So starting at letter A, this first section, two things that we worked on. The first is to remember that this vowel on Kyrie wants to be a forward moving vowel, pushing forward, not a ki, not a really wide E vowel, but Kyrie, just to get a little bit more tone, and that will make sure that the choir blends together. The second thing here occurs, for example, on the end of the first page, which is most of the time Haydn gives us quavers to spell out the syllables Kyrie, and they want to be quite well marked so that we hear the different syllables. But at other points, for example, the fifth bar of A, he sets lay all on one note, laison. And what we worked on there was to keep that part of the diphthong, keep that for the whole dotted minim, and just switch to the E bit of the diphthong before you get to zon. Laison. So don't change to the E bit too early. We can play, I think, first of all, just up to letter B. And then I'll say a little bit more. So here's the very first set of entries going from letter A. Here we go, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 2, 3. Then the soprano soloist comes in. And at which point, don't go to sleep, because don't forget that on the end of page 3, you have just one bar. Kyrie, just on the end of that page, because otherwise we run out of soloists. So we'll practice that, and then we'll go into also the next bar of the Christe. So here's going from the soprano soloist on Christe at the top of page 3. Hopefully you got that entry in there, and your little bass octave there, blink, and you'll have missed it. Let's go now from letter C, going on. So you have the responsibility of starting this figure here, which of course is the rhythm we had at the beginning, but we need to keep this feeling of the quavers. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie, and watch. There are a lot of small intervals, semitones going down, particularly for the bass line. Make sure these stay in tune and don't let your voice drop down too far. Going through this passage at the bottom of page 5, the music starts to build up, and you've got your leap there. And the music is building up really to the soprano's top note at the bottom of page 6. And we'll stop there and just recap before we do letter D. So here we are going from C, letter C, where you start the series of entries. So I'll give you 2 bars of the soloist before letter C, 2 before C. and. Breather. So it's quite a lot of continuous singing there. So going on from letter D, again you start the figure and you have still these descending semitones to watch. It builds again from the bottom of page 7, and be very careful at the top of page 8, which is 6 bars before letter E. Be wary of the rhythm here. Just really that bar. The tenors and sopranos, and I've warned them in their video to be careful, they've got to sing together and get that rhythm in time, but you've got to do, they've got to fit together. So be very careful that your dotted rhythm is exactly in time, and also that you get to the top note and lays on promptly, and be watchful that your L doesn't mask us hearing the actual note itself. So very neat singing needed there. After which, when we get to letter E, we of course get to the reprise of the opening. So I think we can play on from there, and I'll stop at the top of page 10. So we're starting from letter D this time, straight on letter D. 2, 3. Place to stop, so we've paused down, the soloist carries us on, and then in the rest of the movement, well, at letter F, again, basses have the lead there, so I'll give you 2 before F in a moment, give a firm lead there, more semitones going down, and then some semitones going up, so real care of intonation there. The other thing to say about this passage is the very last bar of page 11, just as you turn the page. It's going to come down in volume slightly there, or at least we need less. It suddenly goes up quite high, but the effect that we need is a lighter one. Because then the soloists go on, and I think in at least one edition actually it's given to the soloists. It may be a misprint, but anyway, we'll do what we have here. So suddenly at the end of 11, don't belt out that top D and top E, that passage. I'll say what I'm going to say now, and then I can play all the way through to the end. The trap we found in rehearsal was at letter G. The temptation to come in with the accompaniment at G. The choir comes in the bar after G, so be ready for that when it happens. One particular thing for basses in this passage, looking at after G 8 bars, I beg your pardon, 8 bars, the 8th bar where you come off your D. Now there are two things here. One is you're holding onto your D and then you've got to move before the rest of the choir, the last bar of the top system of page 13. Chromatic. And then as you go into the next line, suddenly piano. So several things to think of at once at that moment, and it's given to the basses to sort of move the choir on at that point. And then you go straight back to forte in the 3rd bar of the middle system on page 13. So here's from 2 before letter F, 2 before F, so you can practice getting your note there. 2, 3. Semitones. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Less than the solos. So here's G 2, 3. Hold 2, 3, 1, 2, and piano. Forte. Off. And there we are. So if you're content with that, you can now go to the video where I play all the accompaniment and when the choir sings, play the 4 vocal lines so you can practice singing the movement all the way through.